Are you finding it harder to make friends as an adult? I get it. It's not like college where everyone's around, and connections just happen naturally. But after graduation, making friends and building meaningful relationships can feel a lot more challenging. You're probably spending most of your time with colleagues, right? But you want connections outside of work too. People you actually vibe with. Here's the thing. Success in life isn't just about what you know. It's about who you know. You've probably heard that before, but it's true. The stronger your network, the more opportunities you open up for yourself. And let's be real. It's easier to connect with people when they genuinely like you. Now, maybe you're thinking, but how do I get people to like me? Is there a trick? It might sound like an impossible thing to learn, but trust me, there are techniques that work. I wish they taught this stuff in school, but they didn't. I had to figure it out myself, and honestly, that's why you need to stick with me through this video. And guess what? People like Warren Buffett swear by these tips from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a classic for a reason. The lessons are timeless and still apply today, decades later. These principles are all about social intelligence, and once you get the hang of them, you'll find that building relationships becomes so much easier. So if you're ready to learn how to make meaningful connections, let's dive into the top 10 lessons from Carnegie's book. Trust me, you'll thank yourself later. Principle number 1. Win people over without winning the argument. Have you ever felt that rush of pride after winning an argument? You've laid out all your points, facts in hand, and felt like you've shown the other person the right way. I've been there too. I used to think winning an argument was a badge of honor. But then something odd happened. Those victories started costing me friendships. I'll never forget one time when I was debating with a friend about the long-term effects of minimum wage laws. I threw out all the stats and studies to back up my point, and after 40 minutes, I felt like I'd won. But something felt off afterward. My friend started avoiding our usual brunches, until eventually, we just stopped meeting altogether. Why? Because no one likes to lose, especially in a conversation. And even when we think we've won an argument, we've actually just bruised someone's ego. Dale Carnegie was right when he said, "You can never win an argument." You might get the other person to agree with you on the facts, but you've lost them emotionally. People don't like feeling wrong, and no one enjoys being made to admit it. The next time you're in a debate or disagreement, try a different approach. Instead of trying to win, try to see things from the other person's perspective. When you make space for their ideas, even if you don't fully agree, you'll avoid the bitterness that comes from making someone feel defeated. Imagine your boss says something you don't agree with. Instead of jumping in with, "That's wrong," you could say, "That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about it that way before." Suddenly, you're no longer arguing. You're having a conversation where both sides feel heard. And by letting the other person feel like they've made a good point, they're more likely to respect and like you. Carnegie's principle is simple. The only way to truly win an argument is to avoid it. Focus on finding common ground, and you'll see people will naturally gravitate toward you. Principle number 2. Make conversations about the other person. If you've ever had a conversation where the other person only talks about themselves, you know how exhausting that can be. It feels like they're not even interested in you. The truth is, we all have a natural tendency to focus on ourselves. After all, as Carnegie said, "I is the most used word in the English language." We all love talking about our own lives, interests, and experiences. But here's the secret. If you want to make someone like you, make the conversation about them. I learned this the hard way when I was applying for jobs. The first time I asked for feedback after being rejected, I made it all about me. What did I do wrong? What can I improve? And unsurprisingly, I got no response. The second time, I changed my approach. Instead of focusing on what I needed, I asked the recruiter what they were looking for in a candidate. How could I better align with the company's values? What did the company need that I could provide? This time, I got a detailed response, and it helped me understand how to approach future applications. The difference was simple. I made the conversation about the other person's interests. People are much more likely to help you, listen to you, or even just like you when they feel like their own needs and interests are being considered. It's not just about being polite. It's about genuinely showing interest in them. Think about it the next time you're in a conversation. Instead of focusing on what you want to say, ask questions that let the other person talk about themselves. What do they care about? What excites them? As Carnegie once said, if you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. In other words, if you want to build good relationships, don't make everything about yourself. When you talk in terms of the other person's interests, you create a bond. People appreciate feeling valued, and when you show genuine curiosity in their lives, they'll naturally start to like you. It's a simple shift, but it can make a huge difference in how people respond to you. At the end of the day, building strong connections and making people like you isn't about mastering some secret trick. It's about understanding human nature. People want to feel heard, valued, and respected. When you can offer that, whether by avoiding arguments or talking about their interests, you'll find that friendships and connections form more naturally. Principle number 3. Understand the power of listening. Listening is quite an effective thing if done right. You may have noticed that when you listen, truly listen, people are drawn to you. Dale Carnegie taught that listening is one of the most powerful tools you can use to build strong relationships. It's a skill that seems simple, but is often overlooked. Most people don't actually listen. They wait for their turn to talk. You might relate to this yourself. Picture this. Your friend is excitedly telling you about their trip to Tokyo. Instead of focusing on their experience, you're already thinking about the time you visited New York, just waiting to jump in. Sounds familiar, right? Carnegie's advice is to stop thinking about what you're going to say next. Just listen. Ask questions. Show genuine interest in the other person's story. They will leave the conversation feeling valued, and that's a powerful feeling. In fact, people are more likely to remember you as a great conversationalist if you listen more than you speak. A few weeks ago, I met someone while I was out for my morning walk. For 3 hours, he told me all about his job, the challenges, the responsibilities, and the importance of his role. I barely spoke a word. At the end of the ride, he asked for my contact information and said he really enjoyed our conversation and wanted to meet again. It was funny because I hardly said anything. He felt heard and appreciated simply because I listened. Carnegie believed that listening makes people feel important, and when they feel important, they are drawn to you. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves, he said. So next time, instead of planning your response, just sit back, relax, and listen. You'll be amazed at how much closer you feel to the people around you. Principle number 4. Create a positive reputation. People rise to the expectations you set for them. This is something Carnegie understood deeply. He believed that giving someone a reputation to live up to can change their behavior. If you tell someone they are capable, hardworking, or smart, they often become what you say. Think about it. When someone believes in you, you're more likely to push yourself to prove them right. It's human nature. I experienced this firsthand when I was working with a friend who wanted to get in shape. He struggled with his workouts and often felt discouraged. It was hard to keep him motivated. After our first few sessions, I decided to change my approach. Instead of focusing on his challenges, I highlighted his strengths. I pointed out how dedicated he was to coming to the gym consistently and how quickly he picked up new exercises. I told him I could see his potential and that getting stronger would come naturally to him with a little more effort. Something shifted in him after that. He approached his workouts with renewed energy and confidence. Not only did he start lifting heavier weights by the next week, but he also began to experiment with new exercises on his own. Why? Because he believed in the positive reputation I gave him. He wanted to live up to that image of being strong and capable. Carnegie's words came to life. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. This principle works because people want to see themselves in a positive light. When you help someone recognize their potential, they're more likely to strive for it. Whether you're leading a fitness class, working out with a friend, or even just encouraging someone in their personal journey, focus on their strengths and capabilities. You'll find that they not only surprise you, but also themselves. Principle number 5. Let others take the lead. Have you ever had an idea shut down for no clear reason? I know how frustrating that can be. It's important to remember that everyone loves their own ideas. I learned this lesson during one of my internships. I had a great idea for using statistical software called Stata to graph an economic trend, but my supervisor insisted I use Excel instead. Weeks later, I had another chance. Instead of arguing with him again, I took a different approach. Over lunch, I casually mentioned how much I admired his Excel template. I even pretended to be excited about using it, but then I added a little twist. I asked if there was a way to enhance the graphs. I hinted that a program like Stata could add those extra details. The next day, my supervisor approached me with a bright smile. He said he had an idea. What if we use Stata to create more detailed graphs? I couldn't help but smile back. It was the same idea I had suggested before, but now he owned it. This experience taught me a valuable lesson. If someone dismisses your idea, try to guide them to discover it themselves. You can influence others without pushing them. As Dale Carnegie said, let others think of your idea. Remember, this approach takes practice. Over the next few months, try nudging people to arrive at your ideas on their own. You'll find that this can strengthen your relationships and help you achieve your goals. Trust me, it's worth the effort. Dale Carnegie's wisdom has helped people like Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, and Chuck Norris become better at building relationships, and the same principles can work for you. It's all about making small, intentional changes in how you communicate. The next time you're tempted to argue or dominate a conversation, pause for a second and think about how you can make the other person feel valued. You'll be surprised at how quickly people start to warm up to you. What has been the biggest challenge you've faced with these principles, and how do you plan to overcome it? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you think someone else could benefit from this video, don't forget to share it with them. After all, we have to ascend together.